Today, first 10 minutes, we'll finish chapter 13, which we know that you already see a lot of questions from this chapter in your homework, and you will see lots of questions in next week's second exam for this chapter. And before we finish this chapter, I want to remind you guys, we have learned several models in chapter 13 about inventory management. I can guarantee you will see like some question about EOQ, probably on EPQ, and also definitely on single period model in your exam. Okay, so you know that when you try to prepare your exam, you know what contents you have to pay extra attention to review. Okay, so the last model we have discussed is single period model. That's another name of a single period model I mentioned. Anybody remember? Another name of single period model is which model?
Newsboy.
Huh?
The newsboy.
Great, Jack, remember that. So newsboy model, right? So you think about if you're a newsboy or newsgirl, you want to sell the newspapers to your customers. We know that newspapers very perishable, it's useless after the end of the day. So then we have to determine how much to order. Okay, and to minimize our excess and shortage costs. So we can guarantee by using the calculus, the optimal service level for this single period model is CS shortage cost divided by CS plus CE, which CE is the excess cost per unit. And after we get this optimal service level, we can follow this distribution to determine what is the optimal stock level. Here is the example we went through on last Friday's class. Part 1 we have finished. Anybody can tell me if you still remember. For part 1, the service level, what is the optimal service level? 75. Thank you, Henry. So 75% is the optimal service level. Then, since this side up follows a uniform distribution between 400 liters and 600 liters, what is the threshold points or optimal stock level given this 75% service level? 500. How do you guess that, Jonathan?
So you take the minimum, which is 400.
400?
Yep. And then you add the service level, which is 75%.
75%?
And then you multiply that by the difference between the maximum and the minimum.
Great. And then you get 550.
That's
Right?
correct.
Yeah. So you can see uniform distribution, you get this number. Okay. Any distribution, we can get which points will correspond to 75 percentile. Right? Once I have a distribution, I can guarantee I can give. So that is for the continuous distribution, uniform. Okay. Another distribution we are very familiar with is normal distribution. That is for part B. So Cindy also sells a blend of cherry juice and apple cider. Demand follows a normal distribution with mean 300 and standard deviation 10 liters. So it's follow normal distribution. 300 is the mean, and 10 is the standard deviation. The question is, what is the optimal stock level? What is the optimal stock level? Again, since the costs are the same, didn't mention anything about cost, we can assume the cost is the same as part 1. So we can calculate service level in the same way. So for the second part, service level is still 75%. It's optimal. You don't need to worry about the service level. But the problem here is that now we have a different distribution. We have to measure this distribution and then find the corresponding stock level for this 75%. I will give you guys 3 minutes, should be enough. But you probably need the textbook to go to the appendix to find that. If you don't have a textbook, one thing probably you can do is that you use your, if you have Excel, you can also do that, but you can share a textbook. Yeah. Still remember how to do that? In chapter 10, 75 percentile, find the Z value, right? In the appendix, you find the Z value corresponding to the 75 percentile. And then since it's not a standard normal distribution, you finally for the Z value get 300, which is mean, plus standard deviation times Z. which corresponding to this 75 percentile. First, you have to use appendix to find the z-value corresponding to 75%. You have done that in chapter 10, if you remember our homework. You get it? Yeah, great. So Aaron already gets that. So maybe you can lend your textbook to your neighbors, somebody who don't have that.
0.77.
Extra.
Yeah. 75.
Or yeah, 103.2.
Appendix. You still have the same service level, right? Because the costs are the same. So the problem is now the distribution change from uniform distribution to a normal distribution. And we have to use remember if you do the homework, that you have to use the normal distribution to find the z value from the appendix, 75%. If they have finished, they can change it.
So this is still service level?
Yeah, the same service. This group. Did you guess the number? No? You do have the textbook, right? No? Okay, let's make sure. Let's say you want to use this one, this textbook, because there are several appendix, but you can use this one. That's the one you choose to use, right? So you find the percentile in this table, 75%.
Should be like 0.575.
Yeah, so it's like here, 0.74 to 0.75, right? So it's 0.67. That's right? Agree with me?
Yeah.
0.67, right? And then you get 0.67, but this is a standard normal distribution table because it's a mean equal to 1, 0, and the standard deviation equal to 1. But if you transfer back to this normal distribution, which the point, because if you tell me it's 0.67, it's definitely wrong because it's 300 already the mean, right? Yeah. So you have to use 300 plus this 0.67 times 10. That's it.
Plus or minus, right? To get your.
Because it's 75%, so it's about the half, so it should be plus. If it's less than 50%, it should be minus. This is definitely plus. Okay. It's clear for you, Jack?
So if it was 35, it'd be minus. 35
Yeah, 35. You should minus. The reason is that 35
is lower.
is lower. Yeah, 35 is lower. But here 75%, you don't need to worry about this. Okay, we have seen many students have finished this question. So the only hard part in this is find the z value correspond to 75 percentile. Who can tell me? What is the z value for the 75 percentile for normal distribution, standard normal distribution? Anybody? 0.675. Very good. In fact, if you go to the table, that's no exact number corresponding to 75 percentile. It's between 0.67 and 0.68. Well, like Branko have a very good answer. We choose the middle. It's 0.675. I would say any number you choose between 0.67 or 0.68 is fine for me. You can say 0.67. You can say 0.68. You can use the same as Branko said. It's 0.675. If you really want to get the exact number, probably you have to use Excel or some other software. It will give you the exact number. But this is a good estimation. Very accurate already. Then we know that this is the z value corresponds to the standard normal distribution, which means mean equal to 0 and the standard deviation equal to 1. And if you have 0.675, you get 75%. But here we have a non-standard normal distribution. We know that from this statistic course, right? We have to transfer it back to this normal distribution. We use mean plus standard deviation 10 plus z value. We already got from this standard normal distribution table. Finally, what's the final answer? 300.
306.75.
Which is your optimal Stokes level. See that? So you can see there's not too much difference, but for different distribution, here, like Jonathan showed about, right? For different distribution, we have to handle differently. But the things is the same. Once we know distribution, Okay, we can find the percentile number. For normal distribution, very easy. We don't need any table. Any percentile, we know this is the formula to calculate this one. But for normal distribution or some complex distribution, we need to have some table to find the value corresponding to this percentile. That's the same idea. If you have some discrete distribution, which you will see in your homework question, right? Then let's say an example. Okay, very simple example. So the same thing for this. I would say, let's say the same service level, 75%. But you have a discrete distribution. Let's say you have 300 liters. So it's a demand probability. 300 liters is like 20% probability. 350, you have another 20% probability. 400, 20%, let's say 30%. 450, 5%. And then 500, 25%. So you add them together, you can see it's 100%. Let's say this is your demand distribution. It's possible, right? So you have a discrete distribution. The same thing. Now, we know optimal service level is 75%. Who can tell me what is your optimal stock level? Give you 1 minute, should be enough. This is the discrete distribution. Agree with me? Because it's just not continuous. For each demand level, it has a probability. In this situation, what is optimal stock level? 75% service level.
500?
500. If you have 500 error, what is your service level?
100.
100%, right? Yeah. Jack said if you have more than greater or equal to 500, you can make sure you satisfy all the customer demand. But we know it's not optimal because if you have 500, you have too much inventory. Okay, it's not optimal. Optimal is still 75%. Then what is your stock level?
450.
450,
15.
right? Because 450 is the value, the cumulative probability equal to 75%. So you can see that if you have a discrete distribution, you will need to make sure below this number, your accumulate probability is equal or at least greater than 75%. That's the way you solve this problem. You have this question in your homework. That's how I want to give you a hint. But you can see the idea is the same. Once we know the service level, and given any distribution, I don't care, discrete or continuous. As long as I know this distribution, I can find the value corresponding to this optimal service level, which is my optimal stock level. That's the idea. Any questions, comments?
So you just add them up? Is, okay.
You think about, we have normal the first question, first one is uniform distribution, right? It's continuous, but it's the same thing. Why is 550? Because the probability from 400 liters to 550 is 75%. You also think that's why it's add up from 400 demand to 550 is 75%. When it's discrete, we don't need to add this continuous interval. We just add the discrete realizations value, right? 75%. Okay, now I think we have finished all the things we need, at least for your homework. Okay. If you have any question for your homework, come to my office. The due date is, what is the due date?
Next week.
Alright.
Next week.
Next Friday.
Next Friday, alright? Okay, Sam, give to me on next Friday.
No,
You know we score your guess for sure, right? No surprise.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not the 30th?
Okay, the last slide.
It's Friday. I was
Right. Don't trust him, right? He will definitely submit the homework this Friday, I guarantee you.
Oh, yeah. Most definitely.
So, strategy. Well, I don't need to mention why it's so important. Everybody know that from the first slides. Inventory cost is so expensive. Even we improve our inventory management in the United States for so many years, but still we have the ratio about 1.25 of sales inventory. And the opportunity cost is huge. Many companies just hold a huge amount of inventory, just waste their money, stuck in the warehouse. That's why we have to improve our inventory process. Okay. Several tricks we have mentioned that use the IT infrastructure to improve the record keeping, and try to reduce our lead time and the forecast error. Lean operations, the next we'll talk about supply chain management, improve inventory management. Again, from my experience, how to improve inventory management always begin from here. Remember, chapter 3, still come back, right? We know inventory is so critical to many companies. But if you see the problem on your inventory management departments, don't just look at individual units. You think about all the factors can affect inventory management. Definitely forecasting is one of the most important factors. If you can improve your forecast error, you can have a better forecast. You can get a much better inventory management, as we have discussed. Another thing is lead time. Right? Lead time, nowadays, for most companies, they can accept long lead time. Right? You think about because of globalization. Many of our partners are in Asia, in Europe, so we have to accept like 1 week, or maybe 2 weeks on the road after place order. But we don't like is the variation. We don't like variation. Even that's our labors, right? Usually lead time is 1 hour, but we don't like sometimes you give me in 10 minutes, sometimes you give me about 2 days, right? So the problem is the variation. If we can have a lower variation of lead time, it will be very helpful for us to control our inventory because we know for sure, like EOQ model, right? We know for sure when our next order will arrive. Then it will be very helpful. So it's lead time. But how to get a shorter lead time or low variation of lead time? That's about this chapter, next chapter, supply chain management. You have to collaborate with your supplier, with your retailer, with your distribution center. Then to hopefully first is to shorten the lead time. Second, you try to have a lower variance or much more fixed lead time. So that's chapter we'll learn now. Any questions for chapter 13? No? Okay. Great. Now, if we divide our course into 3 modules, that this is the final module. So, chapter 15, supply chain management, chapter 16, scheduling, and chapter 12, MRP and ERP, which are the last module.
So for the upcoming test, well, this one's gonna be in the next.
No. For the test, only cover is chapter 8, location planning, chapter 10, quality control, and chapter 13, inventory management. That's the test. Since we are in very good progress, probably the test will hold a little bit early than the syllabus set, most likely. What is the syllabus set? Next Wednesday? So next Wednesday? Oh, then it's the same. So next Wednesday we'll have the test. I don't want you guys forget what we have learned because we finished the 13 today. I don't want to waste 2 weeks. Then you probably will forget what we have learned in the past 3 chapters. So Friday you give me the homework. I will try to grade the homework in the weekend and give you back on Monday, and you can review that. And then Wednesday we'll have the exam. Right? Good? Okay. Chapter 15, supply chain management. The first thing I want to mention that in our MBA course, we have an individual class, supply chain management. So you can understand how important of these chapters. But unfortunately, since we are just in the operation management class, we don't have an individual class in the undergraduate level, which is common, not just for UNCP, but most schools like this. So we can only spend like 1 or 2 weeks on this topic. But you should know that nowadays, this is very hot topic, supply chain management. It's very hot. Okay. Before we go to this chapter, okay, I want to ask you guys, in your opinion, what is the supply chain management? What contents or functions, if you work in the supply chain management, you have to cover, you have to deal with the problem, deal with daily base or weekly base?
Logistics.
Logistics, definitely. Anybody know what is logistics means?
Means how stuff moves.
Yeah. Basically, logistics tradition means transportation.
Yeah.
Okay, move from one place to another place. What else?
Human resources.
Human resources. Jack, why do you think human resources is very important for supply chain management?
Because they're the people running it. They're the people you got to deal with every day. Like the computer might give an automatic order if it's through the scanning system and stuff like that. But when it actually comes to checking your financial statements and making sure that It's getting delivered on time and going to the right destination, the optimal rate,
Mhm.
and in case you need to order more, something like that. That's all based off of
That's right.
your staff and employees.
That's right. For supply chain, traditionally, it's just a subset of operation management. So, no difference. But with the new technology, many functions are done by software. But supply chain nowadays, human are very important. The reason is that now the supply chain is more and more complex, given the globalization, right? But it's not easy to communicate between. It's pretty easy, right, from Germany to guys here, right? From Cameroon, it's easy, but generally speaking, we still have a barrier with the global partner. So then, human being become very important. A good human resource person, or with like a multi-language or like open mind, that can be very important for supply chain management. Very good. Something else is just generally speaking, supply chain. You have to deal with your partners. You have to deal with supplier. You have to deal with retailers. Well, this is out of the internal service. Well, traditionally, supply chain management definitely is a part of operation management. Right? So that's the reason. This is one chapter of this course. It is still a part of operations management, but it becomes more and more important. Once you can see that in the industry, right? For the high level position, C level, yeah, everybody know that. What is the highest C level position in company usually? CEO. Right? Then below CEO, there are several other C level. Who can tell me? CFO. What does CFO mean?
Chief Financial Officer.
Chief Financial. Great. What else?
CIO,
CLO. What does CLO mean?
Chief Information Officer.
Very good.
COO,
COO.
Chief Operations.
Great. That's our course. Chief Operations Office. What else?
So it's all C
C.
something up.
Yeah, that's right. Right, but you can't just make. 26 letter in. That must be something. I don't think that's CXO. Right. I don't think so. Yeah. C. That's some CO. Any other example of CO? CHO. What is CHO?
Chief Human Resources.
I believe so. That some company do have that. Yeah. What else? That one unit you haven't mentioned.
Technology.
CTO. That's great. Yeah. But then another thing, another position at least.
CMO,
CMO, very good. Bernard, what does CMO mean?
marketing.
Marketing. I think we mentioned most. There's several C, like Brando said, you just add a letter in and you figure out this what the letter mean. But yeah, that's several position. So you can see CEO traditionally is Chief Operations Officer, which is the track of my major, or some of you will choose this track. Operation Manager, that is the track. Like we have discussed. Tim Cook, which is the current CEO of Apple, he followed this track. First is the CEO of Apple, then become the CEO of Apple. But nowadays, many companies has an individual position, C-level position for supply chain management, which is CSCO, Chief Supply Chain Officer. You never have that. I believe some other company also have that. This is a kind of new position, at least for C-level, where you guys never mentioned that, right? From what you know, that is like CFO, CMO, CTO, everybody knows COO. But CSCO is not so commonly used. Only a few companies have that. But why those companies want to have CSCO like Unilever? Because now COO, they can't handle the supply chain management because it's more and more complex. COO have to handle a lot of things like we have discussed, right? Inventory management, quality control, supply chain management becomes more and more complex. We need some direct, even C-level position to just focus on the supply chain management. That's the reason many companies like Unilever, they begin to have the individual C-level position for supply chain. Then you know that's definitely is a hot topic. And generally speaking, the payments, the income level is pretty good, even for the entry level supply chain job. I have seen a survey last year. That's like the just fresh graduates, undergraduate graduates with bachelor degree. Supply chain analysts, the average beginning salary is about like $60,000 to $70,000 per year. That's nationwide, so it's pretty attractive. But for this field, we have to pay attention. This field, the competition is not just in school business because many student graduates like Cameron, industrial engineering, they have very good qualitative stuff. Supply chain analysts, supply chain job, they like engineering background student too. Definitely they like our school business student. But what I say is that this is a good field if you consider a future career. And since it's involve a lot of the behavior, so it's not easy to be replaced by the technology. Right? You have to deal with your customer. Objectives of this chapter. We'll discuss some key issues of supply chain management, SCM, and some trend of SCM. And what is motivation and risk of outsourcing? Well, this is very important decision of supply chain. Right? Outsourcing. Complexity we'll discuss. And the strategic, tactical, and operations responsibility of supply chain management. We'll also discuss e-business. Okay. Why it's so important for supply partnership. And also requirements for an effective supply chain. And finally, we'll discuss some challenges in nowadays supply chain management. Supply chain, by definition, is pretty straightforward. It's a sequence of organization, as we have been very familiar with that. In fact, I mentioned this concept several times, even before we come to this chapter. So it's like from manufacturing. Well, let's first disclose manufacturing. Supplier, manufacturing, wholesaler, distributor, retailer, customer. You can add some middle player, the supplier. You can add a lot of player in this supply chain. But that generally speaking, that is a chain, right? But this chain involve their facilities, right? Every player has a facility. Well, and the functions, inventory management, okay, forecasting, quality control, all the functions, activities. And the final goal is to produce and deliver products or service to the customer. That's the final goal for every players in this supply chain. Final goal. Sometimes we also refer as a value chain because if we consider products or physical products, this is the direction of the physical product. Agree with me? Well, from supplier until finally we reach the customer. But if we consider cash flow, that's the inverse way. Right? The cash is from customer pay to the retailer, retailer pay to the distributor and come back. So it's value chain. But if you consider information, that's all the direction. That's information sharing on different directions. So supply chain is very complex, and I really think it's not a chain. It's a network. It's not just a simple chain. There's a lot of players in this supply chain, but we still call it supply chain. Again, I have this reference, but I steal this from the SCOR model. That's when I take the CSCP test, right? Certificate of Supply Chain Professional. I really like this model from supply chain operations organization. Okay, so here is the graph. Okay, so if your company is in the middle, if you are manufacturing or some other position, you have your own decision plan, right? From forecasting, from inventory, quality, and location planning. Right? You have a resource, you have a return, which you have to collaborate with your supplier. Right? But your production part most likely controlled by yourself. As you deliver your products to your customer or maybe distribution center, you have to deal with them. Right? They have to also deal with the upstream player and the downstream player. But in the whole supply chain, for the planning part, ideally speaking, we should all collaborate together. We'll see that why it's be very helpful. But you can see that there's collaboration or context between two adjacent players in the supply chain system. The facilities. Okay, several facilities from a warehouse, factory, processing center, distribution center, then retailer store. Okay, then finally to the customers. We have to deal with that. We have discussed in chapter 8, which you are seeing. Probably it's long ago, but we'll have that in our exam. Right? For example, the location decision or different type of facility will definitely affect our location decision. We have discussed like warehouse. Most likely we'll use like central gravity method to determine the warehouse because transportation cost is most important. But factory for manufacturing, right? The cost is so important. Retailer store, if you remember, for retailer store, factoration is widely used. We determine the position, location position of the retailer store. Okay. So you can see the position of the supply chain is very important, critical to affect our decision. Function, there are lots of functions. As is generally speaking, we have learned a lot. They're all related to supply chain forecasting. We have discussed a lot of methods in chapter 3 about forecasting. But all the methods we have discussed are based on our own data, like our own historical sales data, our own like seasonality factors. Okay, we have to touch the field about collaboration. But nowadays, even in industry, not mentioning academia, industry, many companies collaborate together in the supply chain to make a better forecast. One very famous example is between Procter & Gamble and Walmart. They are two giant players in their field, probably number one in their field, right? Walmart and Procter & Gamble. They have very good relationship, and to improve the forecasting, Walmart lets Procter & Gamble access to all the data, the Walmart sales data for the products of Procter & Gamble. So Procter & Gamble not only know their its own Walmart order quantity, right? Procter & Gamble see Walmart as customer, right? You order from me. I know that's how many you order per week. That's what we have in chapter 3. Okay, analyze this historical order quantity, we get a better forecast. But they not just know the order quantity from Walmart, they also know the end customers' sales data. Walmart sell the products for Procter & Gamble in their retailer store. They know that. And it will be helpful for Procter & Gamble for the long term to have a better forecast. Because you know that end customer can affect Walmart behavior later, and Walmart behavior change, your order quantity will also change. So that's a very good example for the collaboration for the supply chain partners to improve the forecast. Any questions, comments? No? Great for you, Sam? I know you work for example. Purchase, right? Purchase definitely is very important because it's between partners, so it's very important. And I can tell you, like if you are in the position of procurement manager, okay, you probably get very good payments. Usually 6 digits, 6-figure salary. Okay, that's if you can get this, but it do require lots of experience. You understand that because once you mess up with your purchase of material, your quality will be very big issue. And also, if you have a higher cost, okay, purchase cost, that can be another problem. Inventory management, it's boring. We have spent 3 weeks on this one, right? Information management, we know that's important. Quality, okay, will be passage. Example 2. Scheduling, we have touched this past, maybe 2 weeks later. Delivery, customer service. They are all the functions important for supply chain. And some function we can do internally, like inventory forecasting. But some function we can't do that by ourselves. For example, the delivery, right? We have to deal with our partners. Okay. Purchase is between us and our supplier. Supply chain management is the coordination of business functions within a business organization throughout its supply chain for the purpose to integrate supply and demand management. Again, the purpose is the same as we have discussed in the first class of this semester. We want the balance between our supply and our demand. That's also the purpose of supply chain management, right? We really want to have the exact amounts on the right time, on the right position for our customers. But given the globalization, okay, it's really hard nowadays because those mom and pop store, right? We have to have a supplier from Korea, from China, from Germany, and ship to us. And then we have our retailer store, probably in Mexico. That is really hard to have the exact amounts on Mexico to satisfy 100 customers on time. That's why it's not easy nowadays to have the supply balanced of demand. There's a purpose for the supply chain management. Supply chain manager, okay, that's the people at different levels from CSCO, Chief Supply Chain Officer, until the entry-level supply chain management, responsible for managing supply chain and the supply and the demand. Okay, that's a lot of function. Supply chain management, if you go to company, this position is not well defined. Well, different companies have different supply chain management, but they can do totally different work. For example, I was a supply chain consultant, right, when I worked for industry from 2010 to 2012. When I applied the job in 2010, right, I think it's a business job because I have a PhD degree from business. I think, okay, that's perfect for me, right? Supply chain consultant, I like consulting first, right? And I like supply chain, right? That's my major. I think it's perfect fit for me. And then when I did the interview, they test me a lot on SQL. You guys know SQL? It's a SQL, it's a database language. Okay? They test a lot of database. Why consulting? I need to know so much about database. And then come to the company, I know that it's so important because I have to deal with big data. No matter it's Unilever, Crafts, or Procter & Gamble, big name, finally you have to help them to save the cost, create profits. They have a huge amount of data. You can't just save the cost by just talking, presentation. You have to show their results. That's why I have to learn database. I have to learn I have to do the technicals, coding work. But on the other hand, you have also to show them presentation, the reports, very important for them. Right? So so why supply chain management can handle different parts. Some supply chain management may be pretty strategic to know what's the direction of a supply chain. Okay, what's partner we should choose, how to evaluate also partner. Some can be very quantitative and deal with data. So it really depends on your position. As the final purpose is said, right? We want to manage supply and demand. And the sourcing problem, procurement, and the transformation, logistics, as Johnson has mentioned, they're all in the supply chain management field. The goal is to match supply and demand. No surprise. Right? There's some things we have to, very important for us to match our supply to demand. Right? First, determine appropriate level of outsourcing. You can see here, it's not determine where or not to outsource. It's determine the level of outsourcing, which in fact is right. Nowadays, especially Fortune 5 company, how can you handle all activity by yourself? Almost impossible. I can't imagine any Fortune 500 company handle all activity by themselves. They do some extent of outsourcing. It's just what is large or not large. Well, you have a very small retailer store, you can do all by yourself. And in your opinion, outsourcing. Well, I think Jack, your team did that's the case study for outsourcing, right? For hospital, right? But in your opinion, what are the factors you should consider when you determine the level of outsourcing? Or which function you think maybe it's good function to outsource? What are not good function or activity to do the outsourcing? This team have experience. Generally speaking, yeah.
Based off the case that we did.
It's a case. Let's give you a case. Okay.
Which-
Those hospital. That's a hospital. Because you are very familiar with hospital. Let's think about another case. What about banking system? If you are working in a bank, then what you can do outsourcing? What function you think may be a good idea to outsourcing?
Customer service.
Customer service. Okay. That's many banks do that. Customer, we don't like that because we call and then somebody has very heavy, even more heavy accent than Charles. I can't understand, right? Then we complain a lot, right? Sam, you complain a lot. So, and then it's can be a problem, but still, it save a lot of cost. And what's another benefit for outsourcing the customer service to a foreign country? Except the heavy accents, there must be some benefits except the cost.
24/7.
Very good, Jack. 24/7. If you have the customer service here, we do have some very high level like credit card. They have local customer service 24 hours. Right? For example, those credit card. I remember when that's just several years ago. I can't imagine. I already married so many years. But anyway, when I proposed to my wife, definitely one thing you have to have when you propose. One thing you have to have. Ring, right? Definitely. Okay, so the boys are already ready, right? Christine, right? They are already ready. They know that for sure. You have to have a ring, no matter it's a big ring or small ring. And the ring, generally it's not just a ring, right? You have the diamond, which can be very expensive, very expensive. So there's several different brands like Cartier. Girls must know, like right? Yeah, Tiffany. That's I was very poor when I proposed. I was a poor student, PhD student. So I bought from online from Blueland. Maybe you have to remember that if you want to have a very good quality of ring, that's with a little bit lower price than like Cartier or Tiffany. So Blueland is an online diamond seller. It's very good reputation. So I bought a ring, still very expensive, 5 digits, 5 figures. I borrow money from my mom. I say I need $3,000 to propose. But because I don't have money, enough money. But anyway, I have some issue with this order. I call them like 11 p.m. They have the customer service in the United States to answer your phone. The reason they can afford that, they have a very huge profit about that, right? About the diamond industry. I believe very high level company they do have. But generally speaking, it's very expensive. That's the reason we want to save our cost, but still provide good enough, right, service level. That's the reason we want to do the outsourcing. By the way, the Thanksgiving is in the corner, right? Even we haven't passed the Halloween this weekend. Thanksgiving is the shopping season, right? From school business, I hope you guys not just learn from class. You should be, every speaking, be better to seek deals than school of education or school of nursing. Okay, you should have a better financial management, personal financial management than others. That's my suggestion. Like Dr. Gonzalez, she's having some seminar to introduce how to manage your financial credit cards or bank accounts. You guys should learn that from now. Because early 20 is very early, but you should learn from now. Okay. My suggestion that try to apply some credit cards as early as possible to build a credit history. Then you will have a better deal after when you are in like late 20, early 30. Very good note. And come back to Thanksgiving. When you do the shopping on Thanksgiving, which websites you will go to find the deal? Black Friday.
Amazon.
Walmart. Okay, Walmart. Let's write this down. Then we can see how interesting.
He just wants to be big.
Walmart. Okay, let's say Walmart. Branko.
What?
You say Walmart. Okay. Walmart.com, right? Or Walmart. Just go to Walmart.
Yeah.
Okay. What else?
Best Buy.
Best Buy. What else?
Crabtree Valley Mall.
Huh?
By my
I've
house.
never heard about that.
By my house. It's open 24/7. Like
Okay. Any other particular websites for deal? Not just single retailer store.
Overstock.
Overstock is great. So okay, Aaron, I want to ask you a further question. So when you approach Black Friday, so you go to overstock.com to find out what's the sales in Black Friday, something like that. If that's your strategy. And Black, you go to walmart.com to find out what's the sales will be happening in Black Friday. Similar strategy, everybody? Similar strategy? That's a good strategy, frankly.
they don't put everything on there.
Yeah. First, they don't put everything there, right?
Yeah.
Second, it's not comprehensive. You have to check Overstock, you have to check Best Buy, you have to check Walmart, you have to check different websites, different store. Maybe early in the morning on Black Friday, 3 a.m., you just drive to Best Buy, like 200 meters, people wait there. And drive to Target, and another very long waiting time. You get nothing.
PM.
You know, someone, it was a while back, some random, but like, someone waited outside of a Best Buy like 2 weeks,
2 weeks.
3 weeks
That's right.
prior to Black Friday.
That's
I'm like,
right.
What?
My suggestion, you guys, school and business students, you shouldn't do that. The reason is that it's not efficient to check each website. I can give you several websites. For example, the first one, Slick Deal. Google that. You can use your cell phone now, Slick Deal.
Everybody should be right.
Everybody should know that this website.
Slick.
DLC.
Slick D.
Because it's Black Friday. I think this tool is enough. You don't need to go to so many websites.
Dual C.
They will have the comprehensive list for all the stores. What's the sales? All the stores. You shouldn't go to each store to check what's the sales for this store. You check that in advance. They have this advertisement at least 3 days before Black Friday. You have plenty of time to know, okay, that's exactly where I go to get. Those waste time. Like 10 minutes drive to CVS, get some battery, free battery after rebates. Another time you go to Target, get whatever you want. And then a whole morning you get whatever you want. You shouldn't do that check to
$2.50.
one subset. Huh?
You already
the-
looking. You already looking.
A TV for two?
Later, check that. Surprise. There's a lot of deals. The first thing I want to recommend you guys, Black Friday, don't use the traditional way. Like John said, wait for the best buy for the whole evening to get a cheap level. You can get that in regular time. If you look at some websites, they have sales all the time, in fact. Okay, don't do that. Right? And North Carolina is fine, but if you live in the lost part, you shouldn't do it. The first it came to United States, like 2004. I said, oh, United States has a Black Friday. I'm from China. We never have Black Friday. I told my friend, say, take me to Target. Black Friday.
Target.
He said,
Oh, yeah, Target.
are you sure you want to go? Minnesota, right? Minneapolis. I said, I'm sure. Go to Target. I will get the cheapest laptop. We went to Target at 4 a.m. in Minnesota. You know the degree, right? It's like latitude 10. Latitude 10. 4 a.m. I got nothing. Because there's a lot of crazy people already talking for 3 hours in Minnesota. It seems if you really want to get the best deal, probably you have to stay, as Jonathan said, have a camp, right? From 24 hours ago, wait there. You guys shouldn't do that. You are students from business. You shouldn't use this strategy. It's not the best strategy. You are not so desperate to save $20, right? So, not best strategy.
No.
Use this strategy. Second, credit cards. A little bit far away from the operation manager, but I want to mention because now I want you guys know not just in the text, but also in daily. How many of you have credit cards? Raise your hand. About 20%. You should apply now. There are lots of like Bank of America, right? They have student credit cards. Right? You don't need to have any income. You will have that. Build your credit history as early as possible. You will get a lot of benefits later when you purchase a car, you purchase a house. Without long credit history, you can't have a good deal. For example, last year I purchased a house. I got 15 years mortgage, 3.375%.
Wow.
Nice.
When I sell the mortgage with the lawyer, he told me it's lowest rate she has never seen so many. I told that for Asian people it's normal. Because that's no stereotype, right? Because I'm Asian. Because we like to deal with to build a credit history. You should do that. Because otherwise, when you purchase a house, 1% difference will cost a lot of money in 15, 30 years. Now it's easy, right?
Absolutely.
You want to do that. 2 years ago, when I purchased the Subaru Forester Rowley, right, I get a car loan is 1.09% APR for 4 years. What? 1.0, it's like free money, right? 1.09. Without good credit history, you can't have that. So this is the entry level, seek for deals, like
For
save
deal.
some $20, something. The higher level, you should build your credit history as early as possible. That's my suggestion.
When did you start?
I started after coming to the United States when I was 23. Well, that's the earliest time. You can start early.
That's not bad. Sure, I mean,
It's not bad, actually,
cool.
but you should start it now. You are not far away from 23, right? 21, you should start that. You, I'm international student, I came to the United States 3 months. I have my first credit card. 3 months after coming to the United States. You should have that apply now. Build that later, you will benefit a lot from
I don't use them all though.
Wait, so hey, what do you do for Black Friday? You say you just go.
I haven't determined that. But yeah, but I will definitely buy something. Okay. See you guys on Wednesday. Let me know if you have any question or homework. Come to my office. All right.
What are your office hours today?
Just after class
Yo,
until 41.
Yes, because